Welcome back to this new inspirational video. Today I wanted to go over negative thoughts and how you can sort of work your way through them and maybe even avoid most of them as you're trying to use the law of attraction in your life. Now I think this is also going to be a good opportunity for me to point out that people can become a channel member for my channel. That means that you would pay $2 a month to get exclusive access to posts that I would make on the community tab. But not only that, I figured that if enough people join, eventually I could offer a form of coaching for them for $2 a month, answering their biggest questions concerning the power of the mind, because that way I can still more specifically help anyone out that is struggling with certain things in their lives, while at the same time you're helping me actually build my channel more effectively, because otherwise, you would be kind of dependent only on the YouTube algorithm bringing in viewers hopefully as much as possible every single month. So, I figured this would be a good opportunity to point out that besides this video that you're about to watch, you could join this, you could consider it for $2 a month, and then you're free to contact me and let me know your questions, and I can make videos on them for you guys specifically that are actually financially investing in my channel. So if you look at the picture on the screen here, it shows a red arrow pointing at the join button. If you click that, you can join this channel as a member for $2 a month. You can always cancel it whenever you want. YouTube gives you that option. So that way you can sort of get coaching for a very low price through my YouTube channel. So consider it, and hopefully I'll see you there. With that being said, let's begin the presentation, because we're going to talk about negative thoughts. Now, working with pictures here in order to hopefully make it more easy for you to grasp what's going on here. So the first picture on the screen simply has two circles. They say mind and body. With this, I would simply try to convey to you that your body is essentially the instrument of your mind. Now, you have two options here, and most people, what they do when negative thoughts hit is they kind of panic. They don't really grasp that there is a choice involved here, and that choice comes down to what the next picture shows you: your ability to think. Because you have that ability, obviously you're aware of it, you know you can think, but when the negative thoughts happen, what usually tends to occur to most people is that the negativity of the thought itself actually takes over on a certain level their entire body as well. So with that, I would mean you start to feel perhaps anxious, you start to feel a form of anxiety, fear, worry. You can feel that usually sort of in your stomach area, we would say in the solar plexus chakra, which is, near the middle of your body itself. But that shows you that the effects of the mind have a real effect also on the physical body itself. Now, because you have the ability to think when negative thoughts happen, there's a couple of simple things you simply want to understand. One of them is that the way we think is directly related to the habits we've built. So if you're just starting out trying to use the law of attraction, what you're going to discover is that more often than not, out of sheer habit, negative thoughts will occur to you throughout the day. You learn something great about how you can improve your life, but for some reason these negative thoughts keep bothering you. And then, because you perhaps aren't yet aware that it's an actual choice you have on the matter, whether you are going to go along with the negative thoughts or change your perception, shift your consciousness into a positive direction, then you might stay a little stuck there with the negativity for a while, until you learn that it is a choice that you can consciously learn to make. So the next slide that I'm showing you on the screen right now is asking you a simple question. What are you thinking about most of the time? This is a vital question to ask yourself, because throughout your days you really have the ability to either think of what you want or think about what you don't want and what you dislike. So really consider that. Are you thinking about what you like and want? Or are you mostly thinking about what you don't want and dislike about your life or the world perhaps at this very moment? Because you can easily measure there that one of them is going to be beneficial and the other is going to be detrimental to your own well-being and success. So that's the first question you're going to have to answer for yourself. I cannot answer it for you. Only you know what's going on inside your minds. And I hope it's something positive. But if it is something negative, I would suggest you jot that down. Just write it down, type it out, because you're going to have to become consciously aware of this happening every single day so you can start learning to make conscious decisions about changing that around. Now, if we go to the next slide, we say, when negative thoughts occur, what will you do? Now, you could also say, what can I do? But ultimately, sometimes we are too quick to say, I cannot do anything about this, so I'm just going to sit with the negative thoughts and feel bad about it. Instead, you could always say, what will I do about this? Now, this doesn't mean that it should be a process of forcing your mind to change and being very aggressive almost with it towards yourself. No, you want to become aware that you have a choice again about the matter. So what will you do about it? If a negative thoughts hit, you will simply have to become aware of the fact that it is actually a choice. Now, this doesn't seem easy at first because they come so naturally to us, these negative thoughts at times, that we hardly grasp that it was a choice. But this can happen subconsciously as well, again, out of pure habit of life. Perhaps you've been a person that has always indulged in negative thought when you were a child, and now as an adult you're still doing it. That is a very, very high chance of it. Most adults have more negative thoughts than they had when they were children. It happens throughout our upbringing that we more and more become almost in the habit of, doubting ourselves, worrying about ourselves because of usually what other people have told us. That when we were growing up, they would doubt in us, and then we ultimately started doubting ourselves, and we started to accept that kind of thinking about who we really are and what we're capable of doing. So when negative thoughts occur, what will you do? Well, I would suggest a simple exercise can always be to create a journal of some kind for yourself in which you write out the negative thought, to write out exactly what you're thinking about and how you're feeling about that thought. Because then you learn to look at your own thoughts objectively. And this is especially useful for negative thoughts, so you can more easily perceive what's going on inside of your own consciousness. And when you do that, this is what I find out for myself. When I do that, it becomes more easier to make a choice and to look at it, what you wrote down, and be like, wait a minute, this doesn't serve me one bit. This isn't going to help me achieve my greatest dreams in life. I can look at this like a stranger would. You could even go as far as to pretend for a second that these thoughts that you wrote down that are so negative and so frustrating perhaps to you and causing you anxiety and worries and fears, if a stranger had those thoughts, what would you think about that for them? Would you say, oh, that's great, keep on doing this? Or would you try and suggest to them to do something else? This is where you become your own best friend and learn to sort of coach yourself out of the negativity that will occur throughout your physical lifetime. For all of us, it happens every now and again. Sometimes it's worse than other times, but it just keeps happening. Now, as you keep doing this process of writing down your thoughts, be they negative for the most part, but also the positive, you actually want to become aware of what the next slide is saying. We're talking here about a thought energy. This is something you cannot perceive with your physical eyes, but it's something you can at least contemplate for yourself, or at least imagine this being the case. What you're going to do is to imagine that there is a thought energy entering your mind, and this energy can be either good or bad. It's kind of like how, was it Shakespeare? I actually don't know 100%, but it was a quote that would say, nothing is good or bad except our thinking makes it so. Now, that means that the thought energy that is entering your consciousness can be turned into something good or something bad. And this has to be done consciously if you want to benefit the most. Some people unconsciously simply have a very optimistic frame of mind. Maybe their whole upbringing was built in such a way that they learned from a young age to use their minds in a certain way. That happens to a small percentage. For the masses, however, and the majority of us, including myself, you never learn anything about this when growing up, so you're kind of at risk there to never really understand the power of your own consciousness the way you should know it. So in your case, in my case, everybody's case, a thought energy enters their mind. It is that thought energy that allows you and that gives you the ability to think, to actually have positive or negative thoughts. So when negative thoughts are in your mind, when you're aware of them, when you can feel them, sense them, well, you just have to understand, okay, I'm using this thought energy in the wrong way. I can actually choose here to instead focus on something positive. Now, this isn't always easy, I will agree with you, but it is the process of changing your consciousness around, of getting rid of the negative thoughts. And you're not getting rid of them in the sense that they will never ever occur. You're mostly getting rid of them in the sense that if they're not beneficial to you, that you learn to change your consciousness to something that is beneficial in the long run, so that you can actually enjoy your life and use the law of attraction the way it was meant to be, because otherwise you're going to stay stuck. Now, this next slide says you have to become consciously aware that you can choose your thoughts. That's right. Are you aware of this? Whenever negative thoughts hit, what are you doing? Most people, again, are just sitting down and then kind of feel sad and bad about it and frustrated. They're like, why am I constantly thinking about this bad stuff? Why am I thinking about all the stuff I shouldn't be thinking about in order to achieve my dream? What's happening here? Well, when I first started studying metaphysical teachings way back in 2007 with the first book called The Secret, and then hundreds of other books over the years, I did notice that myself as well. I would start to try at least to consciously think about what I want. But then some sort of little voice, almost you could say, was like, are you sure about this? Are you sure you can do this? You probably cannot do this. And now I realize I don't really suffer from it anymore, because I basically have turned it into a habit to work with this kind of information to improve my life. But at the time I wasn't in the habit yet, so that old habitual way of thinking and living would sort of try to nag me as I was trying to change my consciousness around. Now, this can also be the case for you. And it is not bad. It is not something to be afraid of. Because I'm telling you right now, I've been through that myself, and it is something you can overcome. You can become good at choosing positive thoughts. You can become very effective at it as you keep working with this process consciously. So this whole video just showed you, in a simplistic way, I hope, what is happening inside your mind. You have the thought energy come in. Again, if we go back to the picture, you have the thought energy come into your mind. And then if we go to the other slide, well, you have a choice to ask yourself, what are you thinking about most of the time? As that thought energy is coming into your mind, what are you thinking about most of the time as you make use of it? Is it good or bad? Now, the way to think positively about your life is to perhaps first bring to light, bring to your awareness, the nature of your own negative thoughts. That's why having a journal is useful in this process. Some people maybe are too lazy for this, they don't want to do it, but if you really do this, you learn to objectively look at the negative thoughts and also learn to consciously choose something else instead of those thought patterns that are now holding you back. And as you keep practicing this process, you'll become better and better at enjoying and using positive thoughts to your advantage. Because the more positive your thoughts are, the greater you tend to feel. However, the greater you feel, the more positive your thoughts also tend to become. These two polarities work with each other. They magnify each other. Now, as an ultimate last strategy, if you cannot get rid of your negative thoughts or somehow change your feelings around at will almost, then you can invoke the body to do something else entirely. So you can stand up from wherever you are and start walking, go for a walk or do something. Now, at first, when I was younger, I didn't really understand that part. I thought, but I'm not interested in going for a walk. I just want to learn to change my mind. What's this suggestion? Well, what we're doing here is also, if we have to, use the body in order to shift our consciousness around. This is a real thing that can occur. Whenever you work out, for example, people feel or tend to feel better, more optimistic afterwards. This is, of course, of what happens in the brain as well as you're working out. But you see, that's techniques by being physically involved in something else that will distract you just enough from the negative thoughts that it shifts into the positive side of thought, and then you can take that positive power and start building and magnifying it by thinking more and more along those lines of what feels good to you. And then you become a magnet more and more for greater and better things in your world, because that's ultimately what you're called upon to do, is to become a magnet to your own dreams. And you become one by being in total harmony with the things you want to manifest. So consciously, in thought and imagination, you are in harmony. You're thinking and imagining along the lines of what you want. Subconsciously, you're learning to feel emotionally along the lines of what you want. You feel the joy that would be yours. Were you now to realize your greatest dreams in life? You already are there, spiritually speaking. And then physically speaking, well, you'll always be compelled to do stuff on this plane as long as you're in harmony inside your mind with your dream. And as you do so, you'll notice that it becomes easier and easier to be in a positive frame of mind and to make your dreams come true and no longer feel intimidated by negative thoughts when they occur. Because they can occur. They can even occur to me at times. It just happens. But I know I don't have to stay stuck there. That's the huge lesson I've learned over the last 14 years of my life. I know I don't have to be stuck in negative thoughts. But it wasn't always like that. When I was a little younger, I might have stuck around in negative thoughts for way longer, because in a way, I would just sort of fight with it inside my consciousness, feeling bad about feeling bad. Imagine that. And that's that cycle you might get stuck into, making everything seem more bleak than it really is. So hopefully this gave you some insights. If not, well, you're always free to leave some comments below about it. And other than that, as I said in the intro of the video, anyone that joins as a member for this channel, well, we can always create specific coaching videos for you if you're joining. And with that being said, dear viewer, if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing to receive inspirational videos on a regular basis. And never forget that we are the dreamers.